Most people think fall is about cozy nights and pumpkin spice, about bonfires, hoodies, and the kind of chill that makes you want to stay inside. But there's another side to this season that most people don't talk about. When the air turns cold and the daylight fades faster than you expect, the world feels thinner. Like something old and patient is finally waking up. The crunch of leaves under your feet sounds different when you're walking alone. The wind doesn't just whistle, it whispers. And every shadow stretching across the street seems to watch you just a little too long. These stories aren't about ghosts and masks or movie monsters. They're about real people, real moments, and real fear. The kind that sticks with you long after the last leaf falls. Because sometimes, the scariest thing about fall isn't the darkness outside. It's what it brings out inside us. It started as one of those perfect fall evenings, fog rolling low across the ground, the air cool enough to sting just a little when I breathed in. I was walking back from campus, earbuds in, backpack heavy with textbooks and a half-eaten granola bar. The main road was closed that night for construction, which meant either a 20-minute detour or the shortcut. A narrow dirt trail that cut through the old orchard behind Miller's farm. Everyone at school called it the trail. It had its own reputation, though I'd never heard any real stories about it. Just dumb rumors, creepy scarecrows, weird noises, kids daring each other to walk it after dark. I wasn't in the mood to care. I just wanted to get home before the fog got thicker. At first, it was quiet, peaceful even. It's a kind of silence that feels almost safe. My sneakers crunched against damp leaves, and the faint smell of apples, rotting ones maybe, hung in the air. I remember thinking how beautiful it all looked under the streetlight glow fading behind me. Then I noticed it, sound faint and thin, like someone whispering just at the edge of hearing. I paused, pulling one earbud out. The noise stopped. The trees stood still, fog drifting between them like pale smoke. I laughed it off, told myself it was the wind brushing through the branches. But when I started walking again, I could have sworn I heard it again, closer this time. A soft, breathy murmur, like words, but not clear enough to understand. I turned, scanning the rows of apple trees. That's when I saw the first scarecrow. It stood a few yards off the trail, slumped forward a little, dressed in old denim and a torn flannel shirt. Its straw hands hung limp, head tilted to one side, as if it was listening. I'd never liked scarecrows. They always looked too human, too wrong, but this one, it was facing the trail. I walked a little faster, pretending not to notice the way its shadow stretched behind me through the fog. Now that's when I saw another one, maybe 30 feet ahead. Same close, same tilt of the head. Only the first one had been on my left. This one was on my right. The whispering came again, clearer. I spun around. Nothing, just fog and trees. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. I told myself to grow up, that it was just my imagination. But every few steps, I felt it again, that sense of being watched. I started to jog, then run. My breath came out in white bursts, the sound of crunching leaves chasing me like footsteps that weren't mine. And then, I saw it move. One of the scarecrows, its arm twitched. Just a little, but enough to make me stop breathing. Its head was turned toward me now. Didn't think I just ran. The trail twisted and narrowed, and I could barely see 2 feet ahead. The whispers grew louder, like dozens of voices overlapping, pulling my name apart syllable by syllable. My foot hit something soft, a pile of old leaves, I thought, until I saw a boot sticking out beneath them. That's when I screamed. I tore through the fog, breaking into the clearing by the edge of the orchard. I didn't stop running until I reached the main road. Lungs burning, throat dry, my phone buzzing with low battery warnings. When I looked back, the fog had swallowed everything. The orchard, the scarecrows, the whispers, all gone. By the next morning, I'd convinced myself it was stress, exhaustion, whatever made sense. I even laughed about it in class when someone mentioned the trail. But later that afternoon, while scrolling through my phone, I saw something that froze me. An anonymous post on our campus forum, a photo. It showed me, alone, walking through the orchard the night before, taken from behind. And just at the edge of the frame, a scarecrow, standing perfectly still, its head turned toward the camera. That trail was supposed to save them 5 minutes, just a shortcut through the fog. Instead, it gave them nightmares they'll never shake. Some paths aren't meant to be crossed, no matter how familiar they look in daylight. But not everyone gets to walk away from their fall horror story. Some people don't find the exit at all. Next story takes us somewhere safer, at least it should have been. Home. I grew up in one of those neighborhoods where everyone waved at each other. Lawns stayed neat, and the scariest thing that ever happened was someone forgetting trash day. So when old Mr. Carter moved in across the street, we didn't think much of it. He was quiet, polite, the kind of man who still wore flannel even in July. Every night at sunset, he'd step out onto his porch with this old-fashioned lantern, real glass brass frame, flickering flame inside, and set it on the rail. He'd light it, stand there for a few minutes staring at it, then go back inside, every single night. At first, we thought it was just an old man's habit, some sentimental ritual. But something about it always felt off. Maybe it was the way he'd watch the flame like it meant something, or the way he never turned on any other lights in the house. It's just that one lantern. One evening in late October, I came home from work and noticed his porch was dark. No lantern. The whole house looked like it had been swallowed by the early fall dusk. I didn't think much of it until my mom called me over to the window. "He's out there," she whispered. Mr. Carter stood on his porch, empty-handed, turning in small circles like he'd lost something. Even from across the street, I could tell he was panicking. I crossed over to ask if he was okay. Up close, he looked even older than I remembered, eyes glassy, hands trembling. "It's gone," he said. "My light. Someone took it." I tried to calm him down, told him maybe he misplaced it, but he shook his head hard. "I've had that lantern since '68. It never leaves the porch." His voice broke a little. "She hates the dark." "She?" I asked, but he didn't answer. He just kept staring toward the woods behind his house, where the trees pressed tight together like a wall. I offered to help look. He hesitated, then nodded once. Now the woods were colder than I expected. My flashlight barely cut through the fog drifting between the trees. A few minutes in, I noticed a faint glow deeper ahead, soft and gold, flickering like a firelight. The lantern, I called back, but Mr. Carter didn't respond. The glow grew brighter as I got closer until I finally saw it, the lantern hanging from a low branch. The same brass frame, same glass panels, swaying gently, though the air was still. But that wasn't what made my chest tighten. Beneath it was something else, a cross, small, wooden, half buried in the leaves. The ground around it was disturbed, as if someone had recently dug there. When I turned back to tell him, Mr. Carter wasn't behind me anymore. I called his name. No answer. The woods felt heavier, the fog thickening until even the lantern light looked like it was being swallowed. I grabbed it and hurried back toward the neighborhood, trying not to run but failing miserably. By the time I reached his porch, the light in the lantern had gone out. His front door was slightly open. Inside the house smelled like dust and something old, like damp fabric. I called for him again, but the only sound was a soft ticking from a wall clock. It read 9:47 p.m. That's when I saw it, a framed newspaper clipping on the table. When you work as a park ranger long enough, the forest stops feeling like a place you visit. It becomes something that watches you back. I used to love it. The endless trails, the smell of pine, the way autumn made the whole world seem golden for a few short weeks. But last fall, something changed. It started small. A whisper I thought was the wind. My patrol route wound through a stretch of forest known as Elk Hollow, a quiet place where the canopy hung so thick the sun barely touched the ground. In late October, the leaves fell fast, piling high across the trails until every step sounded like I was walking on broken bones. One evening, as the sky dimmed to a bruised orange, I heard it for the first time. A voice, faint, almost gentle. My name. I stopped dead in the middle of the path. Hello, the forest answered with silence. Just wind through the trees, I told myself. Wind can sound like words sometimes, especially when you're tired. But then it came again, closer. Eli. Spun around, flashlight cutting through the trees. Nothing, not even a bird moved. I laughed it off that night. Told myself I was just on edge, maybe overtired. But the next night, the whispers came back, and this time, they weren't alone. Dozens of voices, layered and soft, like a crowd whispering secrets. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone. It wasn't angry. It was curious, patient. By the fourth night, I'd stopped pretending I didn't hear them. "Who's out there?" I shouted once, voice shaking. My radio crackled, but no one replied. The whispers stopped just for a moment before one voice rose above the rest. "You shouldn't have come back." I froze. That phrase hit something deep, because the truth was, I had come back. I used to work this forest years ago, before transferring to a different district after a bad winter rescue. A hiker had gone missing out here, and despite every search, we never found him. I never forgot his name, Caleb Moore. When I returned this year, I didn't tell anyone why I'd left the first time. Some things are better buried. But that night, the forest didn't let me forget. The whispers followed me down the trail, weaving between trees, repeating words only I could know. My father's voice. My own. Then Caleb's "Help me?" It was so clear I dropped my flashlight. The beam hit the ground, rolling across a thick layer of orange leaves, and I saw something underneath. Shape. I crouched, hands trembling, brushing the leaves aside. At first I thought it was a log. Then I saw the fabric, dark green, sleeve. A patch with the same emblem that was on my own uniform. I stumbled back, heart pounding. It couldn't be real. The whispers surrounded me now, urgent, almost pleading. My name again and again. Eli, Eli, Eli. I ran. Branches clawed at my arms, the light bouncing wildly as I sprinted through the fog. My radio burst to life with static and a voice. Dispatch, I thought, but it was too distorted to make sense. I didn't stop until I reached the ranger station. By then, my uniform was torn, my face streaked with dirt and sweat. I tried to tell my supervisor what I'd found, but when we went back the next morning, there was nothing. No disturbed ground, no uniform, no trace. Just untouched leaves piled high. They laughed it off, called it stress. Maybe they were right. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But that night, when I tried to sleep, I heard something outside my cabin window. The whisper again, softer this time. Closer. It said my name once, then another. Caleb. And I swear for a second I saw a figure standing at the edge of the trees, wearing my uniform. I quit the next day, packed my things, and left Elk Hollow without looking back. A month later, a new ranger took my post. I never met him, but sometimes I check the park's incident logs online. Last week, one caught my eye. Patrol disrupted by unidentified whispering voices. Officer reports hearing name repeatedly. Investigation pending. Same section of trail, same time of year. Somewhere under those leaves, something's still waiting to be found. There's something strange about fall, isn't there? It's beautiful, but in a way that feels temporary, like the world is holding its breath before something darker arrives. The air smells like smoke and rain. The trees bleed color before going bare. And everything around you whispers that nothing gold stays for long. It's a season caught between life and death, warmth and cold, comfort and fear. Maybe that's why these stories hit harder this time of year, because they remind us that decay can be quiet. Endings don't always come with screams. They can come with a whisper, a flicker of light, or the soft crunch of leaves beneath your feet. Sometimes the most disturbing things don't happen in the dead of winter, but when everything around you starts to die. So which story chilled you the most? It's the trail that watched, the lantern that wouldn't go dark, or the whispers that never stopped? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, if you ever hear something calling your name from under the leaves, don't answer back.